Welcome to PastPathsUK-USA. Today, we're diving into one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the modern world, the escalating war between Iran and Israel, and why this conflict is pulling the entire Middle East into a broader crisis. From historical rivalries and nuclear tensions to alliances and regional politics, we'll unpack the forces driving this war. Historical rivalry. The rivalry between Iran and Israel goes back several decades. After the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, the new Iranian government openly declared Israel an enemy. Since then, Iran has strongly opposed Israel's policies in the Middle East and supported groups that challenge Israeli influence. This ideological and political rivalry has been one of the biggest sources of tension in the region. Nuclear dispute. One of the biggest reasons for the conflict is Iran's nuclear program. Israel believes Iran could develop nuclear weapons, which it considers a major threat to its security. Iran, however, insists that its nuclear program is only for peaceful purposes, like energy production. This disagreement has led to sanctions, international negotiations, and repeated warnings from Israel. The 12th Day War 2025 background. In 2025, a short but intense conflict known as the 12th Day War increased tensions in the Middle East during this period. Both sides exchanged attacks through missiles, drones, and proxy groups. Even though the fighting stopped quickly, it left the region extremely unstable and pushed Iran and Israel closer to direct confrontation. 2026 Israeli strike on Iran. In 2026, Israel reportedly launched targeted strikes on Iranian military facilities and strategic locations. The goal was to weaken Iran's military capabilities and stop any possible nuclear development. These strikes marked a major escalation because they directly targeted Iranian territory. Iranian retaliation. Iran responded strongly to these attacks. It launched missiles and drones toward Israeli targets and also used allied forces in the region to increase pressure on Israel. This retaliation showed that Iran was ready to defend itself and respond forcefully to any military action. The death of Iran's supreme leader. The death of Iran's supreme leader created a major political moment inside the country. Leadership transitions can create uncertainty and power struggles within the government. At a time when the region is already tense, such internal instability can make the situation even more unpredictable. Proxy forces in the region. Iran has built strong relationships with several armed groups across the Middle East. Groups like Hezbollah and other militias act as proxy forces that support Iran's interests. These groups can launch attacks against Israeli or Western targets, which means the conflict is not limited to just Iran and Israel. Saudi and Gulf responses. Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries are watching the situation very closely. Some of these nations see Iran as a regional rival and may support efforts to limit its influence. At the same time, they also fear that a large war could spread across the entire Middle East. Civilian suffering in any conflict. Civilians suffer the most. Rising tensions bring airstrikes, economic problems, and displacement of people from their homes. Families lose stability and safety, and humanitarian organizations often struggle to provide help in conflict zones. Impact on global oil supply. The Middle East is one of the most important regions for global oil production. If conflict disrupts oil transportation routes or production facilities, it can affect the entire world. Oil prices may rise quickly, impacting economies and increasing costs for people everywhere. Breakdown in diplomacy. For years, international leaders have tried to reduce tensions through diplomacy and negotiations. However, repeated disagreements and mistrust have made it difficult to reach lasting solutions as diplomacy weakens. The risk of military confrontation becomes higher. Proxy escalation in Iraq and Syria. Countries like Iraq and Syria have become key battlegrounds for proxy conflicts. Different armed groups, supported by regional powers, operate there. When tensions between Iran and Israel increase, these groups often become more active, which spreads the conflict across multiple borders. US involvement and regional security. The United States has military bases and strong alliances across the Middle East because of its strategic interests and partnerships with countries like Israel. The US often plays an important role in regional security. Its involvement can influence whether tensions calm down or escalate further. Risk of wider war in tense and warning tone. The greatest fear is not a single strike. It is uncontrolled expansion, if neighboring states are drawn in, if alliances activate, or if civilian casualties trigger mass outrage. The conflict could spread beyond bilateral confrontation. Regional rivalries between Iran and Gulf states, between armed militias and national governments, could ignite simultaneously. History shows that wars rarely remain limited once escalation cycles begin. The Middle East stands at a crossroads between containment and catastrophe. What's next and global implications? Visionary and forward-looking. The future of this conflict depends on choices made in the coming months. Will deterrence stabilize the situation? Will diplomacy re-emerge? Or will retaliation continue to escalate? The global implications are enormous. Energy markets, international alliances, nuclear non-proliferation efforts, and regional power balances all hang in the balance. This is not just a regional conflict. It is a test of how modern powers manage rivalry in an interconnected world. The consequences will shape global politics for years to come. The Iran-Israel confrontation is more than a headline. It is a turning point for the Middle East and the global order. Energy security, nuclear tensions, proxy wars, and superpower involvement all intersect in this crisis. The question is no longer whether the region is unstable, but whether leaders can prevent instability from becoming irreversible war. This is PastPathsUK-USA. If you want deep, balanced analysis of global power shifts and international conflicts, subscribe and stay informed, because the future of geopolitics is unfolding in real time.